thanks for the introduction. And welcome all 250 people here on the call. It's a pleasure to talk here at DevTernity again. My name is Sven. I work for MongoDB. As you might know, MongoDB is a database, and it's a great database, and you can solve a lot of things with MongoDB. And I'm a big fan. Of course, I work for this company. I'm a big fan. And I think it helps, especially in agile environments, to just like don't have, if you change some schema, it's just like the flow, just like flows with MongoDB. But said that is, this talk is not about databases. This talk is, I wouldn't say not about technology, because technology plays also a big role. But you know, when you build an application, right, then you actually concentrate on all the things, but you can build applications actually with different technologies. And I think actually, okay, I'm a big fan of MongoDB, but if you want to use Postgres, fine with me too. You can maybe achieve the same thing with Postgres. Maybe it takes a little bit longer. Maybe there are some other stuff you have to look out, but you can achieve the same thing. So the difference that we make to build great software is not the technology always. It plays a role how fast we come to our goal, but the thing is we want to build great software, and the difference is really how effective you are as a team or as a developer, and this is what this talk is basically about. So let me get started. What is an effective developer? So an effective developer writes very, very smart code. Code, if you look at it, you think like, oh, wow, this looks so great. I don't understand from the first thing what it's doing, but it looks so great and it's so smart. It's just like mind-blowing, the code, right? So effective developer writes smart code. They also fix bugs immediately. So of course they are embarrassed if there's a bug in the software. So they jump on it. If there's a bug coming in from Jira or GitHub issues or whatever issue tracker you use, or someone yells at you, jump on it, fix it, and deploy it directly to production. Bugs fixed, pooh, thing is done. And then also they adding features like a champ, right? If you stay with an effective developer in front of a Scrum board in the morning and just like say, hey, who is working on this one task? This effective developer comes in and says, well, you know what? You can actually progress this into do. It's actually already done. I'm actually have raised a pull request last night, so you can look at it. So we can just like put it to the next phase of our production developers production line. And then also they never stop. They always hacking, always fingers on the keyboard, right? It is amazing. It's like flashes come out of their fingers and they hacking code all the time. So if they run into a problem, let's say they need something from the designer or from the security team, they just stop, tell them, and jump on the next task and continue with the next task. And once the designer come back with their designs and then say, okay, good, I can continue with what I've been doing and finish the task. They are never stopping, always hacking. And also they live and breathe code. You can wake them up, these effective developers, in the middle of the night, right? 3 a.m. and tell them, how can I actually fix this flow, right, in the software? And then this effective developer says, yeah, well, I'm a little bit tired, but hey, go to this class, to this line, or this function and change these things, and you're done. They know the code inside out. They live and breathe code. They just like, yeah, they have the code always in their head, right? Actually, I was feeling this way in 2003. Yeah, I know it's a long time ago. I graduated, had my first job. We started a great project. I was totally focused on in the project. I felt super effective. People were coming to me. I was just implementing their features. I know the code inside. I was super effective. But looking back now it's 2021. It's almost 20 years ago. Looking back now, was it really super effective? Well, let's look at the things that I just told you. What super effective developers do: writing smart code. Well, actually, I wrote smart code. I thought I wrote smart code at that time, but then I looked at it again and said, "Ooh, I don't really get what it's doing. So better don't touch it. Better write some code around it if I want to fix something." So I was at that moment I was thinking, "Oh, this is so smart," and just like try it out and do it. But at the end, didn't pay off. I really didn't know what the code meant. I'm fixing all the bugs, right? I'm just going in there, fixing all the bugs immediately. But what I actually should have done is not just to jump on the next bug, jump on the next bug, jump on the next bug. I should have just like taken a step back and actually fix the root problem that I had with the code. So fixing the root problem would have actually helped me to not just jump on tasks. It would have maybe cut out half a day of my daily of my work, which I think like feels like a lot, but it would have actually helped me just not to just like concentrate on small little things, but fixing the whole thing generally. Adding features like a champ. I was just like going in. People were just coming to my office and say, "Sven, I just had this idea," or "I came from this conversation with the customer, and we need this feature here. We need this admin button here somewhere in the console so they can just jump to there." So the problem is that those features actually get rarely used or just used by one customer, and we had hundreds of customers, and I just implemented something for one customer because one person was screaming, and you know that people scream the loudest. You just like say, "Okay, good, I'm doing it." But I should have looked at if this feature is bringing the software forward or just one customer forward. Is that really effective to do so? Never stop, always hacking. Well, the problem with that was like, you know, when you're really concentrating on hacking, you're in the zone, and you have the whole architecture of what you want to write in your head, and it's just like the limit is just like your fingers to try to get it from your head to the keyboard, right, or into your machine. But actually, this means you're in the zone. So if you have to interrupt it, it takes approximately 20 minutes to get back in the zone. So there's a lot of context switching. What I should have actually done is to look at what is the task that I'm doing, and how have I figured everything out? I shouldn't have started until I see like, okay, I have all the things that other teams contributed to me. I can do. All the task was too big, right? I should have cut it into smaller pieces. Live and breathe code, knowing the code inside out. Great, yeah. It's of course it's cool to know everything, the whole code base. But instead of just concentrating on the code, right, I should have just like get more of the broader view. So just like look broadly on where's the software going, where do we want to be in 1-2 years. I never took the time for doing that. I was just like concentrating too much on the code. So all the things on the left hand side is about efficiency. So being more efficient, just like I like fixing bugs faster, implementing features faster. All of this was very efficient. But what I actually should have done is work on the right hand side a little bit more, which would have made me more effective. All these things would have made me actually more effective. I would have thought like, is that really a feature that we really need? That just like for one customer, maybe that's not worth my time. So it's about effectiveness. Or with other words, like if I would have pushed myself to the left-hand side to being more efficient, I would have worked harder, where I instead should have worked a little bit smarter. And this is what this whole talk is about. And I give you a few glimpses where you can look at. It's not a complete list, how to be smart. I guess you all don't necessarily want to work harder, and appreciate it to work a little bit smarter and become more effective. The first thing I want to cover is code, and we code as a team, right? We maybe there are a few people here in the audience that just like are very individual coders, have their own little small project, but most of us are actually working in a team together on code, right? So think about team code to be more effective. Now, writing good code takes time. We know that, and writing beautiful crafted code, and this conference is all about craftsmanship. So writing good code takes time. And I was sitting sometimes in front of my screen like this in the office when there were office days, back in the days, when I was going to an office. So I was actually working like this, looking like this in my screen. And my boss came and said, "Sven, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm just thinking about how I can make the code better." And then my boss came in and says, "Well, the machine doesn't really care. The machine doesn't care about your beautiful looking code, right? It gets all compiled to machine code and get executed. It doesn't make a difference." But it's right, yeah. I mean, this get executed on the machine side, but machines doesn't care, but humans do, right? And we write code not just to get executed and present to the users. We also write code for our coworkers, right? So we read code more often than we write code. So we should also spend time on making the code more readable. It helps us more to just like help others to read our code, right? So just looking at this is a super ugly Java class. I will go a little bit into details what's wrong with that. But when I open things like this, I just said, "Oh my God, what's happening? What is this?" Right? I don't get it. I don't get the code. I don't see what it's doing. So what I do is I type in git blame and see who wrote this code, and then I figured out, oh, that was actually me. And on a Friday afternoon, and then I say, "Oh, I remember. I need to just like commit the code very quickly to production." But I wanted to go back on Monday morning to fix it, but Monday morning there were different problems. So I totally forgot it. But hey, that's happened to all of us. So let's have a look at this code, and I just like go through the things that are wrong here. Like here, private public protected. Why all these things? Print income information. I can't really read it. Like camel case would actually help here. Then there are some problems with indents, and line lengths. Then curly braces on the same line, on the next line. Doesn't make a whole bit difference, but I would tell you in a bit why it does make a huge difference. Magic number before the variable, after the variable in an if statement. You have to just like rewire your brain always. And then also here, variable names, totally badly chosen. So what you want to do is, of course, you just want to refactor it so it looks beautiful and great. And I know there are tools out there that can help you with automatically doing all those formatting things. You think just like formatting, is that really important? Yes, it is. It is. It's not just like to make it look good and beautiful. Formatting is super important for you to just like understand the code at a glance. So you look at it and you just like get, okay, here are the variable definition, here's this, and you probably have that, but I just want to encourage you to look at it again. Also, like choosing variable names would be great if we would have a tool for that, but we have to think hard about good variable names, right? The thing is, the human mind does not read every letter by itself, but the word as a whole. So if you look at the sentence, you can immediately read it, and that's even though some characters are just like swapped. But that's the same with code. You just want to look at it and actually understand the structure of the code, and actually also just understand the code. And we need to make the code faster readable, right? So we can read it faster. The other thing, how you can make code more readable, right, is not to write clever code. I told you that I was writing very clever code or smart code or whatever. I didn't understand it myself. How should my coworkers understand my code? Why did I do that? Because I can, right? I wanted just maybe to show that I can do that also to myself. Like, I can write this 10 lines and just crashes into 2 lines. But then I didn't know what the code is doing anymore. So I should have left the 10 lines actually to make the code more simple. It's always like simplicity over cleverness. Don't try to write super clever code that no one can actually read, or that it's really hard to understand and to read, right? Write simple code. So how do you know that your code is simple enough? Good question, right? Just here. Good question. So how do you know that your code is simple enough, right? What are you doing? Well, you can make the canary test. So going back to the coal mine workers that went down in the coal mine, took a canary bird with them, and when the canary bird was just like falling down and dying, the air was polluted. They know the air was polluted. That was the indicator. So they had to go out. So what is our indicator to indicate that our code is simple enough? Guess what? It's our junior developers. Our junior developers actually are a good indicator if the code is simple enough. Maybe they just like look at the code and say, oh, I get what it's doing. I'm not really sure about the whole details. That is fine. I mean, they are junior developers, but if they just look at the code and say, I have no idea what's going on, probably not just them have problem understanding that, but all maybe some more developers in your team have problem understanding that code. So that's a good indicator. And also the junior developers are in your team and need to understand the code. So you also need to write code that they can understand. So how do we get that? Of course, code reviews are great. So peer reviews, like pair programming is good for it, or you do pull requests and just like do code reviews as a team. All these things are valid code review techniques to ensure your code has a great quality, and also to inspire your junior developers, right? So this is what code reviews are for. It's for inspired junior developers, also for a common code understanding, so everyone knows parts of the code, and to ensure code quality, consistent code quality. Pretty simple. So these things are pretty obvious. We need to do code reviews, but some teams, actually, a lot of teams are really struggling, and I'm struggling sometimes too, because it's painful to show your work to your coworkers and get judged by your coworkers all the time, right? Because we don't want to get bad feedback about our code. It's our code that we crafted, and getting negative feedback is really hurting us. And that is the thing. Like, but how can we actually make code reviews more human? So we know the benefits are great, but the way to the benefits are a little bit hard. But we need to do that. So here are a few things that we came up with to try to be more human in code reviews. The first thing is to try to seek to understand what the author wanted to do there. So sometimes you just like go, oh, this looks awful. And then you think like, if you go deeper into it, you think like, okay, I know what the author wanted to do here. And I just like think like, I don't know if there's a better way, actually. Maybe this is the only way. So try to understand, try to put yourself in the shoes of the original author, of the committer of the code. Then criticize ideas, right? Criticize says, okay, I wouldn't have done that. Never criticize the people. Don't blame people, right? Please never ever do that. That is turning everyone down from code reviews. You can criticize an idea. That's no problem. I mean, yeah, that's fair enough. We all want to improve, so criticize the idea. But also here, don't rant, right? Don't be just like unfairful. Just like make suggestions. Try to make suggestions and tell them maybe you should look into this or that. Also, don't try to spoon feed. Just like write the line of code into your comment like how it should be. People need to learn. And I come to that also a little bit later here in the talk. But don't try to just like spoon feed people into your solution. And comment on positive things too. We all want to have positive comments and just like being encouraged at work. So also just don't just be negative, but also be positive. If you see something that you really like, or a good variable name, say, oh, this is brilliant. Just try to do that too. So these are just a couple of things that you should apply when you do code reviews as a team. And also your team should agree on that. It's not that you're just generous and nice. This whole team needs to agree to this way of doing code reviews. Another thing here. So team code, great. We write team as a code, makes us more effective. But we also need to learn, constantly learn. I mean, we're living in this relatively young industry, and things are coming up all the time. So we need to constantly learn to be more effective. So this is me. Imagine me without my gray hair, a couple of years younger. Let's say 20 years ago, when I graduated and I got my first job, and I came to the first ever code base, just having worked on some small projects in university, and said, wow, this is possible with software? I didn't know. Continuous integration, boom, mind blown. Continuous deployment, bam, which wasn't a thing at that time, but just imagining here. Yeah. So we are just like, we are just like getting everything in, right? We're getting want to learn everything in our head, and as we're just like so excited about what's possible with software all of a sudden, and we still continue to be like that as software developers. This is still a little being exciting in us always. Like if you see new technologies, we all of a sudden says, oh, this saves so much time. I'm so excited about it. Let's get it into production, which is not always the best thing to just like apply a brand new technology, even so it looks shiny and great, to put it in production. Because I mean, you maybe as a junior dev, you just want to do all the things, but you also get a little bit older and bolder after a while. Maybe, I don't know. I do. Anyway, but you get a little bit older after time, and you have seen things, right? So maybe you say things like, oh, I'll also survive the microservice and serverless hype. Been there, done that. So I also survived that. Really, in your front-end framework again, that's maybe the 50th front-end framework I've seen here. Scrum boards, I don't need that. I already know what's important. Don't tell me, right? I'm here since forever. And then also code reviews. I don't need code reviews. That's not for me. My code is brilliant. I'm happy to look at other people's code, or maybe that's also a waste of time. They should just look at my code. With other words, like maybe you're not this kind of, if you're a senior developer, you're not this kind of developer, but maybe you have seen these kind of developers, these grumpy developers with a little bit of grumpiness in their tone and in their behavior. But these developers may say like, you know, kiddo, also, I know how to develop software. Don't tell me. I know how to develop software. I actually know how to develop software now. But here's a question you could ask this grumpy developer: like, do you think software development is changing? And definitely it is. I mean, come on, just look 5 years back. We became all serverless. So of course, software development is constantly changing, and we need to continuously learn new things, right? It's not, we cannot just ignore what's out there. So how do we continuously learn? How do we keep up with what's happening? Because it's actually happening a lot. So what I do, here's some tips. What I do is like listening to podcasts. It's a good summary of what's happening in the industry sometimes, if you find a good one. And then also to audiobooks. I was doing it when I was commuting to work. These days, I'm not commuting to work anymore. So I'm doing it. I need to just like move and run. So I'm doing some workouts. So I'm listening now to audiobooks during my workouts. But still, it's a good thing. I'm not a big book reader, by the way. You can also just like sit down and read books and learn from books. That's also a great way. Go to meetups. I know also these days these are virtual meetups. And I really appreciate when I can meet people in person and get to see, like, get to make connections. But actually, in the last 2 years, I've made a lot of connections online and just like talk to people online at online meetups. Totally cool. But we also hope that we all can go back in person and go to meetups. And it's not always about the presentations that are presented at meetup. It's more about the discussions and the connections that we learn from. Then also what we do at MongoDB is we're having a book club. So a book club, actually, we read a book and we read a chapter each week. And then we meet for 1 hour each week to just like talk about those things that we just that happened in the chapter, or that we read about in the chapter, and discuss it. As I said, I'm not a big book reader, but it helps me actually to read a book. And these discussions are just like is so much worth and so much deepening the knowledge that I've read in a book. It's just like amazing. So I can just recommend to you, it's just for you, maybe for the chapter, an hour, plus the book club an hour is 2 hours to just like learn new things and discuss new things with your coworkers. Also, what we do is what I did when I was a team lead, like we didn't have a big budget and we couldn't fly to a lot of conferences. We were doing video Fridays. We were watching together as a team, because not every team member was keen actually to go to a conference or to just like watch talks in their spare time online and learn online. But we get everyone in one room of our team and did some video Fridays where we saw a talk from a conference, and afterwards we were coming together and discussing things and just discussing what we just saw, and then we left into the weekend. So that was our weekly routine, to just like learn, end the week with some learning activities. But why do we need to learn? Some junior developers have asked me that, Sven, why do we need to learn? You know, if I have a problem, I just go to Stack Overflow and the answer is there. So why do I need to just like understand all the concepts behind it and things like that? I just like copy paste code and then it's working. Okay, let me start by saying this, right? You need to try and solve the problem yourself. So this is the first thing, right? Because if you run into the same problem again, you have made the connections in your brain how to solve it. I mean, it's obvious, right? By copy pasting, not so much, right? So the first thing you should do if you run into a problem is try to solve the problem yourself. Sometimes you're stuck, and I totally understand that. I stuck all the time. So here's another technique, like ask for help. Obvious, but before you just go out and interrupt your coworkers, ask yourself for help. There's this technique called rubber ducking, which when you have a rubber duck, you know, this one that swims in the bath tube, and look at it, and the rubber duck is smiling, and you try to explain the problem that you have to the rubber duck, is a technique like to open your mind to new things, because it has to be very simple, explain to the rubber duck what the problem is. And maybe it looks funny if you talk to a rubber duck, and maybe you think I'm totally out of my mind. But it is a good technique. Also, if you practice this, you don't have to really talk to a rubber duck, but try to find a technique how you can just like open your mind a little bit more, and all of a sudden the solution comes to you. Guarantee you, it happened always to me. Then I think, all right, now I'm a little bit step out of the problem, step away from my machine, and then this just like the solution comes to me. Sometimes it's also just going out and get a coffee and then come back, and then things look better. But yeah, maybe that doesn't help too. So admit that you don't know and ask for help, right? So learning makes new connections in our brain. I said that if we learn something, like it is glued in our brain, and the next time we run into the same in a similar problem, we can solve it, or we learn how to solve problems. That's a great thing. But not always it's good like to keep your connections in your brain, because sometimes you learn something that is not true anymore. You also have to get rid of some connections. Here's a story. When I was in university, I learned that with a waterfall methodology is the thing to develop software. There's no other way to develop software. It's like waterfall. And they praised it as the best thing ever. I went to my first job, and you know, waterfall really sucked. We all know that. So I had to unlearn this waterfall methodology. I tried with waterfall and I failed. So I had to unlearn that and become agile. And these are always happening, right? some things that were true in the past are not true anymore. And we have to unlearn that. And if you're a grumpy developer, don't stuck where you are, right? Get rid of some of your grumpiness connections that you have. All right, so the next thing is like, if you're a senior developer, you should become a mentor. You should help others to learn, because this is super effective, because you just like accelerate. You can just like have just a limited amount of work, but if you just like that you can do in a day, but if you train others, like become a mentor to others, that's just spreading your knowledge or your wisdom to others, and this is just like become super effective then, maybe not for you but for the team. But I would also show you like how it become effective to you if you become a mentor. So how do you become a mentor? Well, listen to people, to people that have less experience, have always an open ear. Is that a term in English? I don't know. I'm from Germany, sorry. But have always like an open door to listen to people. Then ask questions. Don't point them directly to the solution, but give them direct direction. So ask questions. That's the same thing. Like they have to come up with the solution themselves. Otherwise, you're not a mentor. You're just like I wouldn't even call it a teacher, but just a pointer. So you point them directly to the so you're the Stack Overflow. That's also not good. Okay. And always have an open door for people to come back, to just like ask you follow-up questions if they struggle. But the thing is, when I was doing this, I was so surprised about the solutions that people came up with. I was so like, wow, this is really possible. I would have solved it totally different, but this, you just taught me something. So it's also great for me. I'm learning from becoming a mentor from the solution that people do. It's just like amazing, and it's like it's really enriching my experience. All right, so continuously learn, continuously unlearn, and then also advise helps others to just like make this make everything broader. At the same time, there's something missing. So we can learn from books, we can learn from videos, we can learn from other people, but sometimes we just like have to go out and try things out. Like we need to experiment, and we need to carve out time to experiment. All right, here we come. Experimentation. Whew. Love that in school. Not doing it too much at work, right? So because everything that we do, that we build, is on that board, right? Everything, people have written post-its to just tell us what we do, or we have written this post-its, could also be, right? And maybe always in a lot of projects, this doesn't fit always on a board. Even here, this board is pretty big. The rest is actually in Jira, somewhere in the backlog room. And I've been working for Atlassian, so I love Jira. I know there's a lot of hate for Jira, but I like it. But there's also a lot of stuff buried into your Jira, probably. And if you look also at the board or at the tasks that are in Jira or at the board, it's like, that might not be the best idea out there. You just wrote it down and put it on the board. That doesn't mean that this is the best idea, right? We haven't maybe really think things through, right? So there are, with other words, there are known unknowns. We know that actually there is something that we don't know, right? There are known unknowns. Maybe there are better solutions out there. Maybe there's a technology that can actually help us, or maybe actually we're missing opportunities. You're working on the wrong things. That doesn't turn the needle. We should work on something else. So these are our known unknowns. We know that, oh, there's maybe a better solution. Well, we know there is maybe a technology. It's unknown. So here's the thing: how can you make this unknown known? Don't be shy. Just try things out. Carve out time of your day to try things out. And the best thing is to do that as a team, because otherwise you just see other people working and you're just like fooling around, or just like you think you're fooling around, but it's actually very, very useful. So the first thing that we did was we were doing coding sessions. So we were 1.5 hours a week. We put aside and tried a new programming language, a new technology, Kubernetes or something, that if you don't use that, even though you can't use that in production, that's fine too. You want to learn this technology once. I mean, maybe you want to, then you can use a similar technology at the end in 1 or 2 years, or you actually know that, okay, this technology is not for us, but you need to experiment with it. And that's what we did with coding session as a team, like in 1.5 hours per week. So 1.5 hours per week means 1.5 hours investing in improving, right? It's a little bit like soccer teams, or football teams. So when football teams they don't just like run games, right? They have training time in between to just like sharpen their knife or whatever maybe that's a bad term, but to just like improve and try new things out that they can apply to the game. And that's the same thing with these experimentation and improvement. So also you probably use a lot of tools in your tool chain. Maybe use Jenkins, I don't know, or something. And if you use the latest version, like, do you know all the cool new features that are out there? We just install the new version, and maybe we read the release notes, maybe we don't read the release notes, but maybe there are some features out there that could totally help us. So also like look at your tools or look at your IDE, keyboard shortcuts, learn those. And it doesn't have to be long. It's just maybe half an hour each week to just like look at your tools, what can they do for you? Or maybe you also look at what cool new tools are out there. If you use Jenkins, try GitHub Actions and see what it can do for you. Maybe it can't do something for you. Or if you use, I don't know, something an IDE, maybe try also Gitpod, which is an IDE in the cloud with pre-built development environments. You can also try that and just like see, oh wow, cool, helps us to code together as a team. I don't know, but you don't know if you don't try, right? And you can learn so much from reading, but from trying you learn so much more. So tools training, as I said, half an hour a week means we're investing now 2 hours of improving ourselves to get better for the job, for the tasks that are on our Scrum board. But what most people want is this: innovation. We want innovation in our software. We need to be the latest and greatest and newest and the best, right? That's leadership asked us to come up with innovative ideas. And I was saying that the problem is not the lack of ideas. We have tons of ideas that we could do, right? Tons of ideas. So if you take the whole company, man, how many ideas are there and how many great ideas are there, right? It is a lack of time to try them out, to just like say, okay, I take some time aside to try that idea and see if it's flying or not, right? Oftentimes you try an idea and then, meh, right? Wasn't that great. The idea was good, but now that we see it, it's not that great. But you don't know if you don't try out, right? So how much time do you need? So here's the thing: do you need 40 hours? Actually, here's the thing: we're just running at MongoDB a 40-hour hackathon, or a 1-week hackathon called Skunkworks right now at this time. That's why I'm here in New York. And this is great to just like try some stuff out. So maybe your company wants to do 40 hours. We're doing it twice a year. Maybe your company just do 30 hours. Maybe you just get 24 hours. That's what we did when I was, or that's what Atlassian is doing when I was working there. So 24-hour hackathons, and I know you probably heard about it. Atlassian was one of the first ones that came up with that, or just like implemented that regularly. So we called it FedEx days at that time. You know, FedEx delivering in 24 hours makes sense, right? But FedEx asked us to just like say, okay, well, don't use FedEx anymore, because if you Google FedEx, FedEx days come up first. So we renamed that in Ship It Days. Fair enough. It's just a name. So concept is the same. And we turned that into these phases, like the before phase, the planning phase, then during the event and after the follow-up. So what are we doing like on a Thursday afternoon? So first, like, we plan the dates, right? Ahead of time, 2-3 months ahead of time. So people can actually get their calendar updated, so there's no release at that time, or no offsite at that time, or whatever you plan for. So it's in the calendar, so you know it's going to happen. Announce and tell stories. Don't just go into a hackathon and just like say, okay, what should we do? It's a waste of time. It's like you can write down your story before, right? And it's also good to just like try to find a team, because this can have a bigger impact. So what we do is running brown bags to pitch our ideas to everyone. Like, and if you need a designer, just grab a designer, right, for your project in this brown bags. So this is a planning phase. But then on a Thursday afternoon, 3 p.m., the hackathon starts. So remember, time is ticking, right? The time is counting down. Have fun, because this is all about fun and motivation, because you work on the ideas that you are passionate about. This is also a great motivator for teams. Don't forget to get energized and drink. Very, very important. Some people are staying the whole night. Not a lot, actually. I have seen people sleeping under the desk, but this is really rare. Most people go home at 10 and come back at 6 or 7 or 8 in the morning. And then we offer some coffee and things like that. And then on the Friday, 24 hours later, Friday, 3 p.m., we show our presentations to the rest of the company. Well, we do something, if the company grows, when the company grew, we had to just like put it into quarterfinals, half finals, and finals, but same thing, like we have 3 minutes to pitch our ideas. We celebrate and vote for the winners. And then some things get on the product roadmap that are pretty compelling ideas. Some stuff don't, but important is also to plan the next hackathon, so people can just like mark their calendars. And the great things came out of hackathon. I just read that Jira Service Desk is the #1 service management tool. Guess what? It came out of a 24-hour hackathon. It's a big thing right now, Jira Service Desk. So things can grow big that come out of a hackathon. Amazing thing. So this is actually another hackathon project where we built a hidden whiskey bar in the Sydney office, because there was a finance team. They also wanted to participate on probably not writing code. Some teams are doing like changing light bulbs in the office to LED light bulbs to save energy. So all these things can also be like in a 24-hour hackathon or cadence or ship it day or whatever you want to call that. So every quarter, 24-hour hackathon means, boom, 0.7 hours a week of improving. 2.7 hours, great, right? Do you want to do more? Sure. Okay, here we come. The known knowns, because we know stuff like hackathon projects, like maybe they didn't make it on the project roadmap, but you really think it's a great idea, so you want it in the product. Or you have the small little things, the small little problems in your software that call paper cuts that hurt really, really badly. Paper cuts hurt really, really badly, but if you have more of those in your software, like people have to click 2 times, not a big thing, maybe you think, but if you have more of these things, like it really hurts, man. Your software feels really sucky. But you never get time actually to work on those. So you could do something like what the Bitbucket team did, called innovation weeks. So they were actually every 8 weeks, they were taking 1 week off to work on these things. And it has to do something with their software, making the software better. It's nothing like they experiment, try something out. Yeah, sure, they do that, but it always has to do with the product that they are building. So this is the difference between this and a hackathon. These things have to work. They have to work on the product, but on small little issues that people have with the software, or big ideas that they want to implement. So this, of course, makes it's 5 hours of improving each week. If you cut that down to weekly, that means 7.7 hours of improving. Invest in discovery time, right? So invest time in discovering things. All right. The last thing I want to talk about to wrap this up is work on what matters for you and your product. So I've seen, I don't know if that comes across very well, this video, but it's gesture. So you control the radio in a car by gestures. Great, right? What? Why are people doing this, right? what was the problem they wanted to solve here, right? And then you will just see that it's not just gestures. You also it's great, yeah, pinch zoom, but they also use the touch screen. So it's a gesture, and I guess it was pretty expensive project, but why are people doing this? Because we think solution first. We often think, okay, we have to build this. This helps the customer without thinking about the problem we wanted to solve. So why do we want to solve that? Where's the data, the validation data that this, if we implement this feature, this really helps? Or what are other possible solutions that we didn't discover? We just run directly into one solution and go with it always. Not always, but often. So what we developed is this project poster, and I can share a link in the Slack channel after this talk, where there's a template for it. So the project poster, actually, we have worked hard on these questions that we asked ourselves before we ran into a project. Like, why are we doing this? How do we just assess possible solution? And there are much more questions in there. It's just like a shorter version of it. So also, where's the validation data? And this is a living document. It's not just good to just like get ourselves to think about the problem. It's good for the whole team to have a common understanding of the project. Plus, it helps us to go to stakeholders and say, this is what we're building. And then we break it down in user stories. This is how we work. And this is a user story here. As a user, I want a new statistic button so that I can see the data set. Same story here, same story. What is the problem we want to solve? Why is it not in the user story? So user story should be something like this. As Yasmin, I want to know the number of data sets so I can plan for growth. So imagine you have a database and you want to see the number of data sets that are in the database. So you can say, okay, maybe I outgrow the database, have to shard my data or whatever. Why is it not in the user story? So people need to understand why they're building these things. What is the problem that we need to solve, not just on a project on a project level, but also on the user story level. And you see Yasmin, right? We didn't say just user. It makes it more human. It's like and Yasmin is a great user of MongoDB. Like Yasmin is a developer in training, and Lucas is a full stack developer. So maybe we need to just like change the CLI for Lucas also, that he can just like type it in. He's a full stack. Or for administrators, we need to just like put in something like a CLI so I can get the number of data sets through the CLI. And Tina's a data scientist. So we need to think more like our users. And of course, these are not real users. These are personas that we have written down, everything. So everyone can identify and know the user. So we have the sheets that everyone needs to know and everyone can take. And just like if we talk about the new feature, we talk about the user and say, hey, how would Lucas use it? How would Jasmine use it, right? So we have a lot of these project posters. The problem is not that we write maybe down a great solution, but what are their priorities? Like, what should we work on if we have all of these different things, these different project posters? So my advice, if you can, work on the happy path of your software, where 80% of your users stay, right? The corner cases, great. Yeah, maybe it is important to also have the corner, but if you fix the happy path, you make 80% of your users happy, and fix the happy path first. If it's not something totally immediately important that otherwise has to do. But if you have the choice, work on the happy path. So you could do something like a journey mapping. Maybe you have seen that, where you just go through the whole user journey here, like write down what the issues are and how you want to fix that. So this is how that works. And then you can have different users here, your different personas that have different journeys, right? And then you can actually see how we can fix the happy path in your software. Now you might say, Sven, I'm a developer. What you just said was just like things about what a product manager should do, not a developer, right? Yeah, Devternity is a developer conference. I've totally forgot that. Not a product manager conference. So I'm sorry, taking everything back, right? Here is the quote that I love. I wish engineers spent less time coding, less time understanding the problem, and more time coding, this way around. Who said that? Who said that? Said nobody ever, right? we need to understand the problem in order to solve it, even as software developers. We need to understand the problem that our users have, really. So maybe a junior developer, yeah, great, you want to learn coding, great. But when you are 1 or 2 years in the at work, you should become a product engineer. We should take care more about more about the software that we build. So how do we become a product engineer? So you could do something like hallway testing. Just test your software before the product manager went out there and go to customers. Test your software with internal users or other people that work on the same software, and just like see, does that work? So do some hallway testing with people in your company. Send your developers on support or go yourself on support. We once had a program where we sent a developer once a year. The developer has to work a week on support, and they come back so inspired and say, oh man, they have so many issues with this little thing and we can fix that right immediately in software, no problem. So also just like send your developers support, and your developers, you can put things into software, not just measuring the memory consumption or the speed of the software execution speed. No, you also can measure like how people are using the software, and you are at the core. You can just implement that for yourself and just like see, okay, where are the problems that users have? So be a data detective. All right, I'm gonna wrap this up because I'm already a little bit over time here. So effective software development. First, think about your team code, how you code as a team, right? Don't write super clever code. Make your code simple. Make code reviews more human. Format your code so people can just like immediately see what is how it's structured, what it's doing. Continuously learn, right? Continuously improve. Make book clubs, learn, become a mentor even. Continuously learn. This is our industry. We don't become grumpy, please. Experiment, carve out time on your calendar, and it's so important to carve out time and not just like constantly work on your board and your sprints. Carve out time to learn new programming language, or experiment and do a hackathon or something, and try things out, and then really work on what really matters, what turns the needle, right? Solve problems, and don't come just like run into with solutions, but think about what turns the needle at the end. All right, I know this is a little bit like wiki, and I'm sorry about that. I cannot give you a clear line. This is where you go, and then you become effective, right? It is like experimentation can lead you to somewhere. Learning can lead you to somewhere, but it's not guaranteed. There's not like guarantee. So, but I guarantee you, if you invest time more into this, one day you will get a payoff for it. Efficiency. Don't get me wrong. I think efficiency is also very important, right? Work on automation, right? Learn the command line or something. Makes you more efficient, right? Makes it more faster, and also like carve out time for deep work. Also be more efficient and don't just jump from meeting to meeting to meeting. All this helps to be more efficient. With other words, like efficiency is about getting more stuff done with the same amount of work, like getting more things done. But effectiveness is to get the right stuff done, the stuff that really matters for the customers, right? Or with other words, efficiency is about the output, where effectiveness is about the outcome that you generate. Well, wrap this up. Think outcome first, be effective, and get shit done. Right. Thank you very much. If you have questions, I'm on the Slack right now. So thanks for your attention, and I'm going to stop sharing.
Thank you, Sven. So guys, as we're running a little bit out of time, please find Sven in Slack, so just discuss the matters with him there. So, and finally, we have a little bit of a break before the next pitch. So, yeah, I'll see you guys soon.
Thank you. I'm in
Yeah.